Hi, it's Wednesday. That means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, author of Dating a Widower, and today is part two of what does a widower mean when he says. If you haven't seen part one, go back and watch it, but if for those who are new here, basically what we're doing is we're going over things that a widower has said to the women in his life, like the people he's dating or married to, and women have gone in and posted these on the Dating a Widower Facebook group, and it's like, if a widower says this, what does he mean? So if you go back to part one, we talked about I love you. He hasn't said I love you yet. I'm still grieving. I see a future. I'm just not ready. Things like that. So we got some different topics in there. So that's why again I'm saying if you haven't seen part one yet, jump back to part one real quick, watch that, and then you can watch part two. So today we got more phrases of what a widower says, and we're going to talk about what he means and maybe some things that you can do to get him to drill down if he's being vague, so you can figure out if it's a red flag or not. So one I got that was mentioned quite a bit is more of a situation. So like whatever, you're driving around town, you're driving by a place, a restaurant, a hotel, or something, and he says, we've been there, meaning the late wife and him, not you and him, meaning the late wife and him. Or, you're driving around, he goes, oh, whatever, I've been there. And it's just kind of a passing reference to something he and the late wife did. Now, just so you know, widowers do have an inclination to do this. I don't know why. I know that when I was dating Julie and a few other people and we passed a familiar spot, I had a memory flash through me and I wanted to say, oh yeah, that I've been there, or we've been there, and so yeah, I understand. I don't know why that is. It just is. Okay. Now, most of the time, I did a good job keeping my mouth shut and keeping the thought and feeling to myself. Not all widowers are like that, and that's okay. My guess is that he's probably not really thinking about what he's saying in the sense that he's not thinking about, is this something I should be saying, or is this something that's worth sharing with the woman I'm with, or does she really need to know this? My guess is those filters just aren't there, and so if it's just once in a while, honestly, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's just, I don't know, whatever, once a month you're driving somewhere and he says something, big deal. And I will say, by the way, that feeling goes away after time. The more widowers are with someone, a new girlfriend, wife, whatever, those feelings, those tendencies to point things out like that, it does go down. So it's usually more common in the beginning of a relationship. If you've been dating someone a while and they're doing it still, keep listening. We might have to talk a bit. But if he's doing it all the time, whatever, every time you go out, oh, I've been there, or we've been there, or we ate there, or we slept there, or I don't know, whatever, fill in the blank. We saw a concert there. Whatever it is he's doing. If he's doing it often, probably the best thing you can probably say again, I don't think he's really I don't think it's a personal thing. I don't think he's saying I miss the late wife, I love her. I just think it's just something he's just doing. So I think something maybe you can say if he does it often is, why are you pointing that out? Kind of get him to think about it instead of saying, instead of getting angry about it, say, why did you point that out? And kind of get him to kind of think about it and say, and my guess is that most of the time is he'll just kind of say, I don't know why I said that, or I don't know, I just thought you'd want to know, or something like that. He'll have, my guess is he hasn't thought it through, and you'll see that kind of reaction or that kind of answer. So again, if it's once in a while, I honestly wouldn't make a big deal about it. But if it is a regular thing and you really feel like it's too regular, then that's where you go back and just say, why are you pointing that out? Why did you think I needed to know that? Just ask him a question and give him a chance to kind of think it through, because I'm willing to bet he hasn't thought it through. And I'm also willing to bet that once you point that out to him, it'll happen a lot less often. He'll actually start thinking, oh, why am I doing that? What's the filter? He'll start putting filters in place. So even if he's thinking it, he's not saying it. And again, if he's thinking it, I know some people are watching this thinking, oh my gosh, he's thinking about the late wife. Things trigger people all the time. I mean, the triggers are a lot less often now because it's been, over a decade since, I was married to the late wife, but triggers are just going to happen, and there's nothing you can do about triggers. I mean, go through your life and see when you drive down the street or you revisit a place, if memories don't flash through your mind. There's nothing wrong with memories flashing through your mind. What's more important is what are you doing with those memories, or are you tearing up and crying? Well, then there's probably a red flag for that. But if pointing it out, he's probably just not thinking. So anyway, there's my long answer to that. So again, uh, probably not a red flag, and generally I think if you bring it up, it'll stop. All right. So what if the widower says, and this is in relation to cleaning up, taking down pictures, cleaning up the house a bit, I don't want to totally erase the late wife out of the house. So I interpret that as saying that he wants some reminders around. Now, it might depend on his reasons for wanting these reminders around, but really this is a chance to have a conversation about what does it mean he doesn't want to totally erase the late wife out of the house, because that's a very vague statement. I would, if he says something like that, I don't want to erase the late wife out of the house, I would say, well, what does that mean? Does that mean you want a picture up in the corner somewhere where no one can see it? Does that mean we're not getting rid of the couch? Does that mean we're not painting? I mean, I don't know what that means. And so that's a chance to have a conversation and decide what he wants to do, and maybe in some cases it's hard. You can't completely erase the late wife out of the house, and I'm not talking pictures. Maybe I don't know. I'm just saying it may not be completely possible there, depending on the house. But figure out what that means and get specifics from him. And if the widower comes back and says, well, I just want a picture, whatever, in this study or something like that, or I want to keep pictures up in the kids' room, or which is, by the way, is fine, or whatever. I don't want to paint the walls. I like the blue color, or whatever color they are, or I like the furniture. Then at that point, you can make a decision whether or not that's something you can live with, because everybody has a different level of tolerance what they're going to live with. Now, I suggest over and over again that you have to really understand yourself and what you can or can't live with. Like I know that there are women out there that are okay with a small photograph either on the wall or maybe in a corner someplace, and they're fine with it. Others say that they're fine with pictures everywhere or whatever, or other reminders. But again, if the widower comes back and says, look, this is what I mean by this, you have really got to stop and think, can I live with this? Can I live, if we're not erasing the late wife totally from the house because he wants X to stay up or whatever it is, can I live with it? And be very honest with yourself. And that's something that might take a minute. It's not something you might just say, I can't live with that, or I can live with that. I wouldn't make a snap decision. I would just really kind of take some time by yourself and think about it and decide what you can and can't live with. Because if you can't live with it, even if it's a minor thing, okay, if you can't live with it, I guarantee it'll gnaw at you and gnaw at you and gnaw at you. If it's a small picture in the corner in a room that is visited once a year, it'll gnaw at you that it's there. So you need to be honest with yourself about what you can and can't live with, and come back to the widower and say, look, this is either say, look, that's fine, but let's clean everything else up, or you say, look, I really don't know if I can live with that. If we're to have a life together and do things like that, the house needs to be whatever. All the pictures need to be gone, or the walls need to be painted, or we need to buy new furniture. Again, I don't know what it is, right? New dishes, whatever. Whatever that is, you need to be upfront and honest with about him. Because again, the widower has to make that choice in his head. He has to decide, well, is it worth having a picture? What do I value more? Having a picture in this small, obscure part of the house, or having this woman in my life happy? What do I value more? The couch that I've had for 20 years, or this woman in my life? Do I value, again, I don't know what it is, but he needs to kind of make that decision. And if he's choosing, assuming that you're being honest here about what you're feeling and what you can live with, if you're being honest about that, it's a good chance for a widower to make that decision. And then, if he's not willing to make those accommodations for you, then I think you need to decide if the relationship is worth continuing. You may say it's a minor thing, whatever, I can get used to it. Guys, I've never seen anybody get used to it. I've had a lot of people lie to themselves and tell themselves that this won't bother me, and it ends up bothering the living crap out of them. So decide for yourself what it is you want to do. And there's another long answer to a short question. All right, let's go to another one. The widower says, I don't want to get married again. Well, I would take him at his word on that. If he doesn't want to get married again, it's a good time to decide if marriage is your ultimate goal, because if it is, this widower isn't for you. Again, I think men are pretty clear and concrete about it. Now, the only exception to this, I might say, is that if you're maybe, again, dating a short time, and I'm talking maybe like a month or two, if you're just new to each other and he says that, his answer might change a little bit down the road, but you know, when he kind of moves on and does some stuff, his answer could change. But if a widower says he doesn't want to get married again, he doesn't want to do X, he's being honest with you. He's not screwing. Men don't talk like this. Say I don't want to get married again, but they really mean I want to get married again. No, 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 no. If he just says he doesn't want to get married again, he really doesn't want to get married again. And so that's a chance again for you to decide, well, do you want to get married again? Is being married something that's important to you? And don't get caught up in the, well, I won't find somebody else, or this is a great guy kind of thing. It's really coming down to your values, and you shouldn't have to sacrifice your values for a relationship. If marriage is something important and something that you want, don't sacrifice it over somebody who's not ready to get married again. And don't, by the way, assuming that you've been in let's say a relationship a long period of time, 6 months or more, and he's saying that, don't think that it'll change his mind, because odds are he won't. Again, it's coming down to what do you value in a relationship. Is marriage important to you? Then if it is, find someone who wants to get married again. But if a widower says he doesn't want to get married again, odds are he does not want to get married again. Not a lot of black and not a lot of gray in that area. So take it for what it's worth and decide. And actually, if you know, and know what you want, and be honest with yourself. There's no shame in ending a relationship because you want to get married and somebody else doesn't. I don't see a problem with that. As far as I'm concerned, the only way a relationship is going to work is if you both have the same long-term goals. If he doesn't want to get married and you do, and you stick around for years thinking it'll work out, it won't. So seen it enough on the Dating a Widower board, seen it enough in my inbox to know that if you don't have that same long-term goal, it doesn't work out. So, okay, the next one says, you know, what do I do if he calls me by his late wife's name? Now, we've actually done a video on this earlier. So again, I'll just sum this up real quick. Accidents happen. People, you know, widowers, we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. I've called Julie by the late wife's name, you know, I don't know, probably count them on two hands. During the 15 years we've been married. It was more common when we were first married and dating. I don't think I've done it in a year. I don't know, it's probably been 4 or 5 years since I've done it now. But it does happen. It's not a big deal that he does that unless it's consistent. So you just need to kind of brush it off. And usually, by the way, most widowers, when they realize they do it, they're kind of like, whoops, that was a mistake. I'm sorry. They'll usually apologize. So again, not a big deal. Now, if he's doing it all the time and it's a consistent thing, might be some other issues there, or might be it's time to drill down and say, well, why do you keep calling me that? And you can figure things out. But honestly, for the most part, if it happens once in a while, once in a blue moon, just shrug it off. We're all human. He still loves you. He's not replacing you, or he doesn't love the late wife more or anything. That's not what it means. It just happens. We're all human. And I'm sure you've done the same thing, called people by their wrong names. It just happens. So anyway, there's that. Okay, so in this context, the widower is moving out of a house, moving out of the house that he and the late wife built their life together, and he says, this will be super emotional for me. Yeah, he's being honest there. It's probably going to be a super emotional experience for him. So I know that your mind can go a lot of places and say, well, does that mean he doesn't want to do it? No. I think he's just being honest with you. Really what's important is whether he's actually going to move out of the house, or whether he's actually going to do the move. The fact that it's emotional, okay, it's emotional. I get it. You know, I was emotional. I can remember as a teenager when I was 17, we moved from a house I pretty much spent most of my life in. We moved one state over to a new town where I didn't know anybody. That was an emotional experience for me too. So the fact that it's emotional isn't a red flag, but really you got to see, is he going to actually move or not? If he actually moves, okay, that's great. If he keeps putting off moving or makes excuses for not moving, or whatever, then that's a red flag and he's not serious about it. Because again, men express their actions through their loves, not their words. So the fact that he says that this is going to be an emotional experience for me shouldn't be a big deal unless he's refuses to move or finds reasons not to move. If he moves, that's where his real heart is. Again, it's his actions showing you that he loves you. No problem. Keep it up. Just don't let it bug you. And by the way, think back to times that you've moved. I'm sure there's been emotional times, and that's just being human again, being part of life. Okay, last one for this video is I want to take things slow. Well, not necessarily a bad thing if it's early on in the relationship, right? If he wants to take things slow, especially if you start dating, I encourage widowers to kind of take things slow at first because they've got to get their emotional bearings. But most of the time when he says I want to take things slow, it's not usually, we're not talking in the first month or two. We're talking, things have gone on and whatever reason comes up, I want to take things slow. So this is the key. If he says he wants to take things slow, that's a very vague statement. What does that mean? This is where you've got to drill down and get specific. So ask him what he means by he wants to take things slow. Get him to solidify so you can tell if that's actually a red flag or not. If he says he wants to take things slow, for example, because he doesn't know how he's feeling emotionally, okay, that's fair enough. Probably a good idea to actually take things slow. If he wants to take things slow because he's worried about what friends and family think, that's a little bit more of a red flag. But again, what does he, talk about it with him and get him to get specific. Because if he can give you specifics, you can then use your own judgment to decide if this is a red flag or not. Most of the time, I would say if he says he wants to take things slow, again, I'm talking. This is from a guy's point of view. Most of the time when a guy says he wants to take things slow, he's not sure about the relationship. And guys usually know pretty quick. I think if you talk to men who are happily married, who have been married for a while, most of them, the big majority of them, will tell you that they knew pretty quick. And by quick, I don't know, within the first couple months, 2, 3, 4 months at the most, that they knew the relationship was going to work out. That's just, I don't know, guy instinct or whatever. But usually if they say they want to take things slow, try to get them specific. If they can't get specific on why they want to take things slow, or they're kind of fumbling around or changing their reasons all the time, probably that he's looking for companionship. He's looking for someone to fill the hole in his heart. He's not looking for a big serious relationship, the same kind of relationship that you are. So again, it's great. Again, this is a great time to have a conversation, get specific. See if he actually has a valid reason for taking things slow. And then, by the way, the key to this, again, he says he wants to take things slow. Well, why do you want to take things slow? Well, I'm still grieving or whatever. Okay, well, how long are you going to be grieving? Again, it's getting him to get specific. Again, if he can't give you specific answers or specific timelines, it's one thing to say, hey, I want to take things slow because my kid graduates in 6 months from high school, and then we'll have the house to our, then whatever. She's going off to college, and we can have the place to ourselves. Okay, I can kind of see that. But if it's 6 months because he doesn't know why, he's giving you, at least on that first example, he's giving you a time frame. I want to take things slow for 6 months, right? Most of the time, they're not going to be that specific. And so if a guy wants to take things slow, that's fine, but I wouldn't get in a serious relationship with someone who wants to take things slow. I wouldn't limit your options that way. So again, find out why he wants to take things slow. Anyway, hope this was helpful. If you have more questions, or if your widower is saying things you want interpreted, leave a comment below. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you want to get updates on my latest Widower Wednesday video. I'm Abel Keogh, author of Dating a Widower. This has been my latest Widower Wednesday, and I will see you next week. Thank you.